This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Hosted by Katie Milkman, an award-winning behavioral scientist and author of the best-selling book, How to Change, Choiceology is a show about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Hear true stories from Nobel laureates, authors, athletes, and everyday people about why we do the things we do. Listen to Choiceology at schwab.com/podcast or wherever you listen.
So my work colleagues laugh at me because when someone's coming over to my computer
to
help me, I'm like, close your eyes, don't look at the tabs because they're all open.
I'm Carvo Wallace, and this is How To, the show that isn't afraid to show you our tabs. Each week, listeners bring us their problems, and sometimes they're thorny relationship questions, and sometimes they're internal struggles, like how to silence your inner critic. But sometimes we get a question that's more practical, like what to do with all the files and photos and screenshots that you have on your computer and phone. In other words, how do you organize your digital life? Today's listener, Sophie, is a Gen Xer who embraced technology early in life, but in a lot of ways, she hasn't really kept up. And some of that is because everything is different now than it used to be. Everything is more virtual, more social, more remote. But some of it is because we now have more digital stuff than we used to. More photos and screenshots and documents, and as more of our lives have become digital, our digital lives have become more chaotic. When Sophia started a new job teaching at a university, she began to realize that she's a little overwhelmed by that digital chaos, and she needs some help to sort it out.
I don't know if you've ever seen those memes where someone's sitting next to a big pile of papers that's just about to topple over on their head. That is how I feel, but the digital version of that.
Yeah.
I will tell you that up until about 2 weeks ago, when the IT guy called me and said, you have to upgrade your work computer to Windows 11, everything was on my computer. I was not really using the cloud at all, even though apparently we're supposed to be doing that all the time. And one of my work colleagues was like, you need to back everything up to the cloud. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Those words don't mean anything.
Not really sure what that means. And so I did it. And now I'm like, I'm not even sure where everything is anymore. So
oh, no. In addition to Sophia's day job, she also runs a podcast, which produces a whole nother stack of digital papers in the form of audio files and research docs, etc. All this stuff is spread across Sophia's phone, her personal computer, her work computer, and more recently, in the cloud. She uses Google Drive at home and Microsoft OneDrive at her job, and it's a lot, especially since Sophia, like a true Gen Xer, still has the impulse to save everything locally.
What I find difficult is because everybody else at the university does a lot of like file sharing through OneDrive and everything, I really struggle. Like right now, there's like 6 of us writing an academic paper,
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure I've opened 6 versions of it because I couldn't figure out how to sort of share that process online. If it's all on my computer, I feel safe. Right. I tell people I grew up programming like DOS and stuff like that.
Yes.
So everything was right in front of me. Felt like I could touch it. That tends to be my default, even though maybe the cloud is better than I realize.
Well, the cloud and the local like drive have the same problem, which is like, what's your file organization, your file hierarchy? A lot of us just like, we'll shove everything in a big folder, it's just like it's like PDFs, files, pictures, screenshots, recipes, like little quotes from our kids or whatever. We just put them all in one big folder. We're just like, stuff that I need later. And there's no hierarchy. There's no organization. Is that kind of what your desktop or whatever folder you use looks like?
It is 100% like that. The other day, I was looking for a bookmark for something to do with work, and my work colleague came to help me, and he was like, what are all these recipes doing here?
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I'm going to make them later. Now, please be clear, I'm never going to make them later. But I need them. I need my recipes.
These are my emotional support recipes. What are you talking about?
Exactly. These are my emotional support recipes. These are my emotional support tabs. Nothing can close ever. And I think that's part of the problem. I don't really have a system because I think when I started the process, there was just 1 or 2 or 3. So it was like, I'm just going to put them here and I will absolutely know where they are. Now there's like 400. And in the meantime, someone said to me, you need a separate folder. So I thought, I'll just open one here, but I forgot where the other ones were.
Right.
And now
Right.
everything is just everywhere. I'm really sorry, Caitlin. You must be like, who is this wild woman with all her stuff?
This is so common. This is so common. You are not alone. I promise you, literally everyone has this problem.
If there's anyone who would know about this problem, it's Caitlin McGarry. She's covered consumer technology for years at Gizmodo and a bunch of other tech publications. She's now a senior editor at Wirecutter, the product recommendation branch of the New York Times, known for their rigorous testing.
Honestly, this actually sounds like really straightforward. It will take some time, but I think just acknowledging that this is a thing you need to do is way more than most people do. So kudos to you for taking control of the situation.
So today on How To, Caitlin is going to use her hard-earned wisdom to help us condense and clear out unnecessary digital junk and explain how to organize our files so that the chaos and clutter doesn't return. We're going to return after a break.
This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Choiceology is a show all about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Each episode shares the latest research in behavioral science and dives into themes like, can we learn to make smarter decisions, and the power of do-overs. The show is hosted by Katie Milkman. She's an award-winning behavioral scientist, professor at the Wharton School, and author of the best-selling book, How to Change. In each episode, Katie talks to authors, historians, athletes, Nobel laureates, and everyday people about why we make irrational choices and how we can make better ones to avoid costly mistakes. Listen and subscribe at schwab.com/podcast or find it wherever you listen.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify, spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Caitlin, you've been covering tech for a long time at this point, and I assume that this feeling of digital overwhelm is pretty common. What are some of the main things you've observed people get wrong about digital hygiene? And are we even getting better at this, or are we as a society just like falling down a pit of despair when it comes to organizing our files and our data?
I think people are a lot more willing these days to acknowledge that like things have kind of spiraled out of control. And we get a lot of folks who ask us for tips on how to wrangle all of this stuff. So I think there's sort of an acceptance that like, okay, we all collectively need some help getting this stuff done, right? The most common misconception is that you need to sit down and do everything like all at once. When you are cleaning your house, like the deep clean is the worst. You're going to put that off as long as humanly possible until it's like disgusting, right? But it's so much easier to pick up things every day. Like you put away some papers, you do a quick vacuum. That's so much easier. And so I encourage people to think of it as sort of like tidying rather than a deep clean. So you can slowly every day, like start moving some files into folders. You can slowly start deleting photos that you don't need or deleting, old receipts that you have floating around on your computer for an expense report that you submitted like years ago. That stuff can be tackled in, 15, 20 minutes. And it makes life feel so much less overwhelming when you feel like, okay, I did something today. Like, check.
Yeah, I like that because I am very much like, today I'm going to sort my computer out. Yay. And then like, and I like the house and that cleaning analogy because sometimes when you decide to do that deep clean, a few hours in, it actually looks worse than before you started.
Yes, exactly.
That's perpetually what happens ever. So I think that's a really great analogy. I love that.
Honestly, you will do it daily forever. Like organizing stuff I'm sorry to say it, but organizing stuff is something you have to do for the rest of your life. It gets a lot easier once you have like your system in place and you have your folders, but you can't make your folders and put all your documents in them and then just let the documents pile up again. Like you have to continually stay on top of that system. That's my pro tip for everyone. 15 minutes a day for the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness, that is hilarious.
Caitlin says that before you start your 15 minutes of deleting and moving files, it's a good idea to take stock of everything you need to organize and the types of files you'd like to keep in order to come up with a solid storage structure.
We all have millions of documents and photos and accounts to keep track of, and you don't learn in school like how important it is to organize any of this stuff. So everyone has their own method, which is usually no method at all. So this is very common. I will say, I think it's great that you actually have two separate platforms you use for your work stuff and your personal stuff. That makes it a lot easier. I have a follow-up question, which is, do you use a separate work computer from your personal computer? And do you have, I know you save everything locally, but are you keeping your work stuff just on your work computer, or is some of that trickling over to your personal computer?
All right, so I absolutely have two separate computers. Everything work-related is on my work computer. All of my personal stuff is on my personal computer. I discovered this a few months ago because I took a trip with my personal computer thinking I could get some work done. And I got to the place and realized, oh, the stuff is all on my work computer and it's not here. So it's 100% separated, mostly because I didn't realize it was a thing.
That's honestly like the best position to be in. You can get organized way more easily if you have just your work stuff in one spot and your personal stuff in the other. So I think you should just take a deep breath and know that it will be a much easier place to start from.
That makes me feel so good because I was actually thinking maybe I should put my work stuff on my personal computer, but I'm very glad you said that.
No, definitely not.
And now I won't.
I mean, imagine how much more difficult this project would be if you had like your taxes and your family photos mixed in with like your research papers. That would be a literal nightmare.
It really would. It's like, look at all the diagrams for work and that recipe for rice balls that you're never going to make. So you're right. Absolutely.
So I think just sitting down and making a plan for tackling this, envision like a filing cabinet. How would you organize the folders? Like, what are the top level things that you need to organize? And maybe sit down and like write out like by hand what you would want those folders to be called. And that really helps you visualize what you want your system to be like. And then from there, you can decide how you want to name certain files so you can find them more easily. You can use dates, you can use project titles. It doesn't really matter. As long as your brain can make sense of it, that's the most important part.
When you're doing this high-level thinking, these are some of the things you want to consider. Do you like finding things by year or by project? How often do you want to have access to the folders? How many subfolders can you handle? It's also a good time to decide on a naming system and tags so that everything is uniform and easily searchable.
So there's no one size fits all. Like some people love to categorize everything by year. I would find that impossible. I need to categorize things by project or by like person. So you just have to decide what works for you.
You know, I have friends who just seem to whiz around their computer and they have everything like 23, 24, 24, 25. And I'm like, I don't even know what year it is. So it's good to sort of think what would work for my brain instead of thinking what works for so-and-so's brain and let me try that because it looks like they're good at managing it. So I try their system and it doesn't work for my brain. So I like that.
Yeah, everyone works completely differently. I will say for your work stuff, I think just if you back up everything to the cloud and don't save anything locally, that probably is the best move because then if anything goes wrong, you have, your university IT system administrators there to help you out. If your work computer dies, everything will be stored. You can work offline on files that are stored in the cloud. So it'll just make your work life a lot easier.
Caitlin just casually tossed off a phrase that a lot of people, especially some older users, still have questions about. The cloud. What is it? How does it work? How safe is it? Well, it may help to hear Caitlin's 101 breakdown.
So think of the cloud as just a storage system that exists kind of all around us. Like, it's not a physical thing that you can touch. So when you sign up for a cloud provider, you can pick, Apple's iCloud if you have MacBooks or iPhones. You can use Google Drive, you can use Dropbox. There's lots of different options. And really just honestly pick the one that you're most comfortable with using. But you can store anything, right? An always on storage system. So you don't have to physically go anywhere. You don't have to use a specific device. You should be able to access it anytime. And so it actually makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways, because you don't have to run home to your computer where all your stuff is saved locally, or you don't have to open a filing cabinet in a specific room. It's just always on, always available to you. So that's the good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also a lot of these cloud storage providers, they offer a certain amount of storage space for free. So if you have, just a few gigs of stuff, you'll be able to store it and not worry about paying for that storage. If you accumulate a lot of stuff, then you'll have to pay, a few bucks a month to get some more space. So think of it as kind of like a storage space that you always have access to and you pay a monthly fee for, just like you would, a physical storage space that's not in your house.
It occurs to me that back in the analog days, you're just okay, I have a file cabinet. There's only so many files that can go in this cabinet, and I can visually see and physically feel when I'm reaching the limit to that. Nowadays, it's I can have 10,000 pictures on my phone, and every single email is just somewhere, and every single text message is somewhere. Do you think that's part of the reason, Caitlin, that people keep everything and aren't really as disciplined about kind of culling stuff because of the feeling that there's unlimited space, quote unquote, because it's not physical space, or at least we don't experience it as physical space?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the times when I get asked by folks, how do I clear out my storage, is when they get a pop-up on their phone that's you are literally out of storage.
Right.
You have to buy storage or get a new phone. And so people are should I get a new phone? And I'm you need to sit down and delete some photos. You absolutely don't need a phone.
How many new phones should I buy?
That's actually such a good point. A couple of years ago, I moved to the UK. I grew up in Barbados, and so I moved to the UK, and I got rid of 90% of my possessions, packed up my couple of suitcases, got on a plane, moved to the UK, which not for the first time, but this is the first time I think I'd done a declutter, a full declutter.
Uh-huh.
And I realized how much easier it is to find things, physical things now. Because, just before I moved, I had a physical filing cabinet, and I did actually have a practice of throwing stuff out, going through so often. I don't know the last thing I deleted anything. That's a really good, I hadn't considered that before, because it's just you say the cloud, I think of it as being out in the ether somewhere, floating around. I'll take a picture of something and I'll have 10 snaps of it just to get it right. But I never go back and delete that. So that's such a good, I never thought about that before.
Okay, so if the goal is to clean up your computer and make things function in a better way, make your workflow function better, make your device function better, you have to pare down. Now, you have to pare down and organize. This is two different threads. So we've talked a little bit about organizing it, but I'm curious if we can talk a little bit about how to delete, how to know what to delete, how to mass delete, particularly when it comes to, say, files. How do we know the difference between what needs to be deleted and what we think we have to hold on to because we have that vague sense in the back of our mind that someone's going to come in and demand that, this Word document from 7 years ago needs to be, that kind of audit mindset that we have. How do you deal with people, Caitlin, who are struggling to know what to let go of?
Yeah, I think in a work sense, it's easier if you know, okay, this the receipt example, for instance, like, after a certain amount of time set by your company, like, you can get rid of receipts because they don't need them anymore. So those things are kind of easier. But in terms of like personal life, you really just have to go through everything sort of one by one and look at the documents. Like, anything, tax or finance related, you should probably keep for a certain number of years. Photos are a lot easier because there are so many different search tools and features now that you can use to find like specific photos of people or places that you don't need to keep around and stuff like that. And Apple Photos makes it easy to find, like, you took a million different photos of the same thing, like, delete these ones. There's duplicates, there's screenshots that you took that you obviously don't need to keep for a decade, but you definitely won't think to go back and delete them. So the photos are a lot easier to wrangle, honestly, than the documents are. So that's something to keep in mind.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Caitlin has more tips for photo management. And we're also going to talk about password managers and getting to that elusive state of no unread messages, known as inbox zero. Don't scroll away.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, and design who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way they staff key projects and initiatives. Upwork's global marketplace is filled with top talent in IT, web dev, AI, design, admin support, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you can connect with freelancers and easily hire them. Upwork makes the entire process simpler and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com.
Building healthy habits doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes, in fact, the simplest habits are the ones that stick. Take, for instance, this habit that I've started cultivating, drinking Live It Up Super Greens every morning. It kind of makes me feel like I'm getting ready for the day, like I'm doing something good for my body. And that's because Live It Up Super Greens is an all-natural blend of over 20 superfoods formulated with organic vegetables and probiotics and digestive enzymes and naturally derived ingredients. And it's designed by nutritionists and third-party tested for purity so that it's easy on your stomach. Just mix it in with water or milk or a smoothie and make it a healthy habit you'll look forward to. Live It Up is offering you 15% off your first order, including subscriptions, with code HOWTO. Plus, shipping's always free. Head to letsliveitup.com/howto and use code HOWTO for 15% off your first Super Greens order. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA, and this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
We're back with our listener Sophia and Caitlin McGarry, senior editor at Wirecutter. And so far we've been talking about decluttering files, but now it's time to talk about the thing that can feel so overwhelming. I'm talking, of course, about email.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's open
email.
up that can of worms. Sophia, are you a person who has? I mean, this is like, I mean this respectfully. You seem like someone who might have like 5 figures worth of unread emails in your.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel seen and called out all at the same time. If I need it and it's important, I don't open it so that I can come back to it. That works if there's only 10 of those. When there's like 1,000, that then actually makes it a lot more complicated. So yeah, I'm definitely that person.
Yeah, I will say that I went to Inbox Zero sometime around 2015 or something. And unfortunately meant deleting a lot of unread emails. I was just like, look, if I haven't responded to this email from like 2002, I'm not responding. It's over. Whatever it is, it's over. I'm sorry I didn't make it to your wedding or whatever it was. It's done. You're probably not even married anymore now. And so I just
so true.
But I got to Inbox Zero, and then since then I've mostly kept it there. Like I might go a few days where I'm traveling and I don't check my email, and it balloons up to like 100 and something. But then I go through and just delete everything, and I don't keep important stuff as unread because that will get me to like 25,000 unread emails. I flag the important stuff as to-dos, and then I have a period where I'm like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and go through all my flagged emails and respond or schedule or do whatever. But yeah, what advice, Caitlin, do you have for people who are trying to wrangle an unruly inbox?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I am the person who tidies every day. That is what works for my brain. So that applies to my inbox as well. Otherwise, I get like very anxious and overwhelmed. So as soon as I sit down on my desk for the day, I go through my email and I flag the things that I need to respond to, and I delete a lot of the junk because most of it's junk, right? Like we're all just getting like tons of crap every day. And so instead of letting that just sit there and kind of like the number of unread emails, I think is the more overwhelming part than the actual emails themselves. It's like that number is terrifying. So I think just sitting down, going through the emails that you've received that day and deleting all the useless ones, it is so good for your mental health to do that. And, to Carvel's point, if you need to just delete everything and start over, like that is drastic. I don't know if I would do it, but like people have done it. And if it's really important, they'll reach out to you again, right? I don't know that I would do that at work because you might actually miss something important, but email providers have gotten really good at filtering things for you. So you have like your primary inbox, you have like social notifications, you have promotions, so you know that, okay, my primary inbox is the most important thing. I can deal with that other stuff later. And really, I mean, if it works for you to make use of folders in your email too, and just start filing things into their respective folders. So, like all of my correspondence around this specific research paper, this project, are all in this one spot. So I don't have to scroll through or type someone's name in the search bar to dig up the thing I'm looking for. Like just filing stuff into folders is really helpful. But yeah, I really recommend that people actively try to whittle down unread email, because I do think it creates a lot of mental clutter that you're probably not even aware of, but it really does. It takes up a lot of space in your brain.
Yeah. It just suddenly occurred to me, if I'm already spending a big chunk of my day looking for stuff, if I just had a practice of spending half an hour every day, I'm just going to move all of the things that I've dealt with today into their respective folders or whatever, because I'm spending that time anyway, except I'm spending it in a very frazzled state looking for stuff. This is great.
Well, I have another question for you, because I will admit that for a long time, I kept my passwords in this big document that was
my goodness.
It was encrypted with my own little system. I made up my own encryption system, which I will not get into, but I made it up.
All of the secrets are coming out now.
That's advanced. That's advanced. Because I'm not going to lie.
And then, but I had a friend who used to just email herself. Every time she set a password, she would send an email to herself with the password. It was one big long thread. And it's I've seen people do so many different things. And what do you recommend for password management? How do you keep track of all this stuff?
So you have to use a password manager. I swear by it. Wirecutter tests all of them. We have a recommendation. It makes life so much easier when you just have to remember the password to your password manager. And then your password manager is the keeper of all your passwords for all of your accounts. It can create new passwords for you when you sign up for accounts. If your password has been leaked in a data breach, which has happened to all of us, happens all the time, it can change the password for you and store the new password in the password manager. When I tell you, I have no idea what most of my passwords even are because the manager just manages it for me. Like, that's where you want to be. You want one tool that can manage that part of your life for you. And it actually makes all of your accounts a lot safer because these passwords that it's generating are way stronger and harder to crack than, you know, what you or I could come up with. We're probably using the same variation of the same 3 passwords we've used for decades at this point. So I highly recommend a password manager. And my tip for getting started with one is just set it up and change 5 passwords for you, your most used accounts. Just have it start there. And then every time you log into something else, like Ticketmaster or like some random website that you need to use one time a year, have it change that password and store it for you. And then just sort of move through it really slowly like that. I find that to be super helpful. That's what I did when I was first getting started with it. And I think that just helps you not only stay organized, but it also helps your peace of mind. Like, you know that you're less likely to be hacked. You know that all of your personal information won't be exposed. Like, I mean, once someone gets a hold of your bank account password, like, it's game over, right? Yeah. So it just helps you, like, again, with that mental clutter and that anxiety, it just really helps reduce all of that.
Does that work across devices?
Yeah. So our top pick is a password manager called 1Password. And that works across iPhone, Android, Macs, Windows PCs. You can use it on anything. So wherever you're creating your account or logging in, it's going to store that for you. So that's one thing that we look for when we test these things. We know that, like, you know, you might have an iPhone, but you use a PC or an Android phone, and you have an iPad. Most people are not locked into one platform. So that's really important for us when we evaluate. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm definitely multiple platforms, and that's always a problem for me. So I love that one goes across platforms.
So before you go, I want to milk you for a little bit more information about the behemoth of photos. And so much of the photos to me encapsulate all of this stuff, like the sentimentality, the like constant input of information without any organizational strategy. Even like Apple, which is like a good photo platform, it still just puts all your photos in a big photo album that's just disorganized and maybe by date. But how do we organize photos? Talk us through that.
Sure. So I find it easier to sort through photos like right after I have gone on a trip or gone to a big event. Just sit down like right after you get back or like the next day and just like go through the photos that you took. There's probably like a few dozen or maybe like 100, 200, and just like delete the ones that are just the same shot from different angles. Just pick the one you like the best and create a new album for the photos that you want to keep from that trip and give it a name. Maybe you have like a shared album with like friends or family and just like put everything there and then you're done. Like those are the photos that you want to keep from it. To go back in time and deal with all of those photos. Again, I was saying before, there's a lot of search functionality in all of the various photo platforms like Apple Photos, Google Photos, and you can search for specific people, specific places, and it should pull up not everything. These are advanced, but you know, they still get stuff wrong. So you can see a lot of what you're looking for, and then you can sort based on that. You can put, you know, all of your family photos in one album. You can put, you know, all of your past trip photos into an album. Or honestly, it's just helpful for deleting stuff. Like I know I have tons of photos that I've taken over the years that I just don't even look at. I don't even remember taking them. I don't know why I didn't bother deleting them in the moment. But just like taking a second to like look for that trip or look for that year, or even look for that day in history and just review the photos that you took and delete the ones that you have no interest in ever seeing again, will help you cut down your storage space tremendously. And even if you never sort everything into an album, because not even I'm doing that, that will help you just feel more on top of it and not like you're constantly just like scroll. Let me find that photo that I want to show someone. Like, I can't believe I don't have this anywhere. And for the ones that you really love and that you show to a lot of different people, or you find yourself looking for a lot, just favorite them. It's a heart or a star on some platforms. It'll sort it into a favorites album, and try to keep your favorites pretty limited. And that's where you keep like, the best photo of your pet or your partner or your kid. Maybe you take a photo of your license plate because you don't remember it ever. And like you have to input it everywhere all the time.
That's right.
Keep that license plate photo in your favorites folder and then you'll never lose it. So definitely make use of favorites and albums, and just reviewing photos as you take them goes such a long way. And like you get that notification on your phone, like on this day in, and you can like open that up and you're like, oh man, I took a screenshot on that day, like that I can get rid of.
Right.
Like that doing that like every day, again, like that little task every day will help you so much.
Wow.
Yeah, the screenshots
I
are
know.
my nemesis, especially because of all the memes. I'm like,
The memes
these
are
are my
worst.
emotional
I know.
support memes.
I know.
You can favorite the best ones, but delete the other ones.
Yeah. Sophia, has this been helpful to you?
This has been so helpful because, first of all, I almost felt like I'm going to have to get a brand new computer and start from scratch. And so I like the idea of starting, in medias res, in the middle of it, and just thinking, here's my system that I can develop, and I've got a process for going forward and a process for dealing with the backlog. So this feels doable. My birthday's coming up in just over a week, so this may be my task for the next year, to just get some systems in place. This is great. Perfect timing.
Yeah, birthday resolution. I love that.
That's been really great, Caitlin. I appreciate that.
We'll check back in with you on your birthday next year to see how it went.
And I'll be like, I'm at inbox 0, Caitlin. I'm all set.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
going to be amazed, Caitlin.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome.
Oh my God. I am already so proud.
Thanks to Sophia for coming to us with this question, and to Caitlin McGarry for sharing all of this advice. We're going to link to some great Wirecutter guides in the show notes. Do you have a problem that needs solving? Send us a note at howto@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-495-4001, and we might have you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, please give us a rating and a review and tell a friend, because that helps us help more people. How To is produced by Rosemary Belson with Kevin Bendis and Sophie Summergrad. Joel Meyer is our supervising producer. Merritt Jacob is senior technical director and composed our theme music. Charles Duhigg created the show. Courtney Martin is my co-host, and I'm Carvel Wallace. Thanks for listening.